What's the market going to do in 2023? Look, y'all, if I knew the answer to that, I wouldn't be sitting here making a video. I'd be looking at all my dollars because I have no idea. I mean, honestly, there's part of me that feels super positive because we have a level of suppressed inventory in the market. By suppressed inventory, I mean, there's sellers that want to sell, but they don't want to give up their low interest rate to take on a higher interest rate to buy. But at some point, they might say, you know what, screw it. I want the extra bedroom. I don't know when that's going to happen. We also are going to realize that rents continue to move up. And so there are buyers that are going to finally realize the mortgage interest deduction and the joy of home ownership might matter when they look at the dollar for dollar comparison on rent versus buying. One thing that's driving me crazy right now, might be driving y'all crazy too, is when you hear somebody say, well, I'm just going to keep renting because it's $600 less than buying. And nobody's explained to them how the mortgage interest deduction works. And they've also not explained to them that the rents can continue to move, but your mortgage is going to be fixed most of the time. And you can paint the baby's room and plant some tomato plants. And so anyway, you start realizing people will at some point in the not too distant future get comfortable with 6s and 7s and even 8s on interest rates because the 3% will move out of current memory. And that's what's going to allow people to reorganize their budgets and move forward. However, we still are experiencing low levels of inventory all over the country. Our builders are bringing property out of the ground. If you price something correctly, it's still selling very quickly. If it's overpriced, it's sitting. So the market is just all over the place. I don't know what it's going to bring. I personally think that here in Concord, North Carolina, we're going to see a slow move up, by which it might mean this much. Some houses might go up this much, some might crater off the cliff. But I look at the jobs market, and with Eli Lilly's billion-dollar facility out of the ground now, and the project manager is here, and they're getting all the pieces in place to manufacture pharmaceuticals, that's a huge gain for the county in addition to all the other growth we've experienced. So when I weigh all those things out, I think we look okay in 2023. However, there's a ticking time bomb out there of all the dollars that have been printed since the beginning, the beginning of the COVID era, so March of 2020, and we are still not seeing the full effects on the financial markets yet. We also haven't seen any financial repercussions of the implosion of crypto, so I don't know. What I can tell you is this: if you're a consumer who's thinking of buying or selling real estate, you're going to have a list of pros and cons. You get to make that decision. And if you're a realtor, your job is to facilitate the conversation of pros and cons so people can make their own decisions. Long story short, should you buy or sell in 2023? It depends. And what it depends on are factors that only you can determine. Now, I will say, on a personal note, I have had some liquid funds in place for a couple of years now. So I did miss some run up on the markets. But as somebody who was a realtor and very successful in the last recession, I just didn't have any liquid funds to really take advantage of any distressed properties. I don't want to miss that opportunity again. So I do have some money that's sitting and waiting, and maybe I'm waiting for 23 or 24 or 25. I don't know. But because I am low risk tolerance, I am prepared. That's not everything I have, but I want to make sure that I don't miss an opportunity. So anyway, that's the Leigh Brown prognostications. And I'll just tell you, if you read any publication, they've all got opinions about where the market's going. Nobody agrees. So you may have to do your own homework in your neck of the woods, as Al Roker would have said, or I guess he still would say it. But anyway, let's see. I have a question here that's kind of complicated. I want to give you the workup on it because I feel many realtors have been in a similar scenario. This realtor asked me for advice about a wonderful past client and close personal friend of decades. And I mean, close, not just they do real estate together, but the kids hung out and they go to church together and they're in a supper club. They go to weddings. They just spend time in life together. So this person has always been a vocal supporter of her realtor friend until, dun, 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 the family member got into real estate. And then once the family member got in, the good friend started promoting the family member. So the realtor is hurt. And there's also this added layer of complexity that with a social media world, the formerly loyal friend is now promoting the family member instead of her friend. And because they run in the same circles, there are questions now about anybody's viability in the business. So here's my thoughts on that. First of all, I feel you. And I've mentioned it before, and I'll say it again. The weirdest thing about real estate is that we are dealing with these giant financial transactions, but they are fraught with emotion. And when I say emotion, I mean, think about it. The house itself has its own set of characteristics. Oh, the babies came home from the hospital here, and mama had her last Thanksgiving, and we put these floors in, and we get tied to our properties. But also there's that emotion of the fact that real estate is an intensely personal relationship. The first time you call me as your realtor, you're thinking about me as somebody who belongs to the multiple, and I've got a grasp on ethics and competence. I'm going to put a sign in the yard, and that's just what you know on the surface. And then you invite me in to sit out at the kitchen table, and you offer me a little cup of tea, and we sit there and we chat, and you tell me everything. And I mean everything. Some of y'all probably should not tell your realtors your whole life story. We are not Dr. Phil, but I appreciate the trust that you show by telling us everything. And then we get down to real estate, and the trust and the knowledge are so intertwined, it's wild. You realize this too. Houses, everybody that looks at you in your personal house is thinking that you're wealthy. We forget that sometimes in America. The rest of the world, not everybody has a chance at a dream like we have with the American dream. And so they see that house and they think you are wealthy beyond measure. And then we look at our personal house, and sometimes we see the issues. There's a crack here. This needs some caulk there. I owe X. You know, all these little things get added up. And so that realtor is then going to hear everything. We're going to hear about the financial struggles, and especially when the economy is changing, we get to hear about the financial challenges somebody's facing, and the house might be a part of that. The house might be the one thing keeping them from a downfall. We don't really know until we're at the kitchen table receiving the trust. And then you think about the other pieces that get intertwined. It's they couldn't tell mama and couldn't tell their kids or their colleagues. There's nobody else they could tell all this to except you. And so not only are you being invited into the middle of the emotion, you're the only one who knows everything. And that's where, as realtors, it's easy to get completely wrapped up in your clients' lives and their businesses too. So then when something changes, we feel personally attacked when they're actually trying to support somebody in their life that needs a little support. So the first thing I would say is this to my dear realtor friend here. If other people think you're a terrible realtor because your dear friend has a family member in the business, then you have to think about what your brand is saying in the marketplace. And your brand has nothing to do with the friend or the friend's family member. Your brand has to do with what you bring to the table. And if what you bring to the table is that knowledge and competence and expertise and confidence, maybe you bring that personal touch. Maybe you are the super communicative person. Maybe you are the person who will hold their hand while they cry. Maybe you're the person who has no emotion and you are just going to drill it right down to brass tacks. You have to look at your skills and shift all of your marketing to talk about why you're a realtor, what you're doing that's different, because your friend is not your enemy right now. They're just trying to support a family member. So divorce yourself from that emotional play that you're doing to yourself there that said you were somehow less than, because you're not less than just because they need to support somebody else. I think of one of my dearest friends in the world, and he and his husband have bought and sold several houses. They will never use me as their realtor because they have a family member who is very attached to them. It doesn't make me less of a realtor or less of a friend. It just means they made a choice that supports Thanksgivings and Christmases in the house. So I want you to take a step back. Remember that your friend is still your friend, and she can support whoever she wants to support, and you will not stop being her friend or her supporter, because the chances are that family member's not going to last in real estate. Let's be honest. If 85% of realtors give up within the first 2 years, she may not be around in 3 years, and then your friend will go back to supporting you. The reason she can come back to you is if you never left her side and you never stopped being her friend in this whole process. So I know that's probably not the answer you wanted. You wanted me to say to go in and slash and burn and take that family member out, but that's not who you are, or you wouldn't be sending me this really long, thought out, emotional question because you care so deeply about the people you serve in your community. And I will tell you this, people know that. And so the more thoughtful and loving you are of her and you understand her decisions, the easier it is for her to come back to you when that family member decides real estate's a lot harder than they realized. Okay, last question I will answer for today. Kind of a technical skill. This question came in, hey, I am a brand new realtor. High five, friend. Welcome in your early career, not new. And how do I do door knocking? Well, door knocking is a time-tested tradition in real estate because it works. In a technology-driven world, we often act like this is the only way we can be successful in anything, but the face-to-face relationships and the connectivity that comes from a conversation just cannot be replaced, y'all, whether it's on the telephone or in person. So my tips for door knocking are this. First of all, do your research first. If you know you're going to a subdivision, pull up the data. What's been selling in there? Who's been selling it? What is the list price to sales price ratio? Who built the houses? How long have they been built? Are pools prevalent? Are fenced yards prevalent? Start figuring some things out about the area before you start walking around, so that if somebody does ask you a question, you have a little bit of what the famous real estate trainer from 40 years ago, Danielle Kennedy, always called your quick speak knowledge. So you should have some quick speak before you walk into the room or into the street, frankly. Now, you've done your research. The second thing I want you to do is preview anything that's on the market. So pull up your multiple listing service, see if there's anything that's actively listed and make a preview appointment. Tell the listing agent you're previewing for future clients. They'll usually be delighted to have you come through the home and get your eyes on it, because we all know that that puts you at that top of mind awareness. You're far more likely to find somebody for it when you've seen it. And now what you're going to do is go out, put your professional dress on. Do not look like a slob. This is not the time for that. You want to look like a professional realtor. This is a good time to wear a name tag so that people do have some comfort with who is coming up to the door. And of course, remember that we're still post-COVID era. Some people are still super nervous and have not left the house yet. And some people really don't give two rips. But you got to play to whoever's in the house because you don't know yet. And I also want you to remember that these little doorbells now are recording you, and somebody might be looking at you on their phone before they come to the door. So when I knock on a door, I bend down and look at the doorknob and I say, hey, Leigh Brown, I'm a realtor, just saying hello. And I let them know that's who I am. That's why I'm there. And then I'm going to take 6 or 8 feet back, so that if they open the door and they happen to be COVID nervous, I've given them enough space that I can just say hello and let them know who I am and that I'm there to help should they need any information, if they want an update on their equity or any information on the marketplace. If they don't answer the door, you can leave a business card, and I highly recommend that your business card not have a Gmail address on it. We'll save that for another time. And get you a little handwritten note that says, I'm so sorry I missed you. And that way they can know that you personally did the work in an effort to meet them. Now, the hard part is if somebody says, oh, well, come on in, we were thinking about real estate. You're not prepared to do a full presentation at that time. So you got to tell them, I'm delighted to have a conversation. And with your permission, I'd like to make some notes so that when I come back, we can have a really good personalized set of information ready for you. Don't try to make it up as you go, and don't try to lie. Just be prepared to have a conversation and build some rapport. Door knocking works also when you do it consistently. So you'd have to put yourself on a schedule to get out there every so often, just so your face becomes familiar and your car becomes familiar, and they'll know you're not a porch pirate, but you're actually a realtor. And frankly, now that I mentioned that, more realtors out door knocking might stop some of these porch pirates, because y'all could be the boots on the ground and the eyeballs on the street to take care of people. Hopefully one of those little scenarios impacted you in some positive way, or you just wanted to hang out with me. That's good too. So if you have questions, you can send it to me by DM or in the comments here, and I'll answer your question anytime you want. You can send me this many paragraphs or just a one-liner. Anything I can do to help, that's what I'm here for. And I'll see you guys next time.